So thank you, Seema again, Dr. Seema, for introducing me. Everyone, greetings from Canada. It is indeed an honor and privilege and an opportunity for me to be here and presenting to all of you. And I would like to start by saying thank you so much, Dr. Telsara, for inviting me to give this presentation. It's indeed an honor, like I said. Thank you to Dr. Seema for one more thing. She helped me set up this webinar. And thank you to all the attendees today who've taken out time to attend my presentation. I feel truly privileged to be here. Now, hearing my thank yous, you must have maybe guessed that I am from Canada because Canadians really love to say thank yous. One thing I wanted to make sure is, Dr. Seema, are you able to see my slides clearly?
Yes, ma'am. Your slides are visible.
Wonderful. Now, one thing I wanted to start with is saying that I'm really proud of my heritage from India. I've been out of India for more than half my life, but I'm very close to my culture. And today I just want to say that I'm representing my Karam Bhumi in a conference which has been hosted in my Janam Bhumi. So those of you who understand Hindi must have understood what I said. And I really feel really proud today to do that. The topic of today's presentation is education strategies to develop global leaders. The reason I chose this topic is because I think it is the need of the hour. Those of you who were here in Dr. Mehenda's and Dr. Telsara's and Dr. Tyagi's presentation just before mine, they spoke about really important things. And I loved what Dr. Mehenta also said about how to develop the attributes in children and so that they can get used to remote learning and good habits to be formed while they're doing that. And that is really important. And I'm glad that this happened just before my presentation, because now I can lead into what can be done to develop those things. So it is the need of the hour, and that is something we cannot afford to forget. So let's start with, before we start the discussion on strategies, we must first think, why is there an urgent need for global leaders in education now? Recently, I heard somebody say something which made me start thinking it in the context of our own education system and the situation we are in now, the pandemic. Now, a lot of companies and corporates are already thinking about these things, and I think in education we have to do that. Look at the Lego structure in the slide here, and think about it as our education system. It was made several years ago. A lot of us don't like it as much. However, we've always wanted to change it, but never have the time or never had the courage to change it. And one fine day in March, due to the pandemic, the structure broke and was shattered to pieces. Many people were very unhappy about it, but few saw an opportunity to use the pieces to make a whole new structure. So now it is an opportunity for us to unlearn what we've been doing all this time. And when I'm saying this, I'm talking to the teachers, the leaders in educational institutions, and the students, because it is an opportunity for each one of us to unlearn and rethink how education can be. And in my presentation in last April, where I was invited by Didac India, I said that in the video, it is the time to rethink, to shake it up, and shift the paradigm and make the education system like we've always wanted it to be. It is your chance. And to make that possible, global leaders need to be developed, whether it is at the student level, teacher level, or administrator level. For the first time in history, the whole world is in the same situation. Hence, we need a global solution for which there is a need for global leadership. That the pandemic may be one side of this problem, or I would say an opportunity. However, on the other side, the world is increasingly digitized. And that has become a challenge for educators, especially during these times. The ecosystem is changing, and it is changing really fast. Think about the students in our classes. Previously, in our generation, the generation gap used to be around 15 years. However, with the technology making that ecosystem change so quickly, the generation gap has become now 4 years. This was pointed out by my older son for my younger son. He said, Mom, we are 4 years apart, but we are also a generation apart. That made me start thinking that if that is so, then can you imagine the students who are in our classes who are changing every 4 years? And because of that, we need to change the way we teach. And that is truly challenging. So let's start with defining global leader. I looked up these definitions. There are several, but these are the two definitions that I really liked. Global, when used as an adjective, global means relating to the whole world, and that is something we all understand. Leader, one who's able to be a source of inspiration and a motivator toward the required action or cause. If you combine these two, the topic of my discussion today, one who is able to be a source of inspiration and be a motivator, reminds us of our teaching jobs, towards the required action relating to the whole world. And that is what each one of us has to be. Again, I'll keep reminding for the student, for the teacher, for the administrators. So who needs to be a global leader? I just mentioned that twice before, and I will not stop stressing it. Because what happens in schools normally, that all the policies and curriculum changes and all the rules and all the resources are spent on making the students succeed. However, one thing we cannot afford to forget, that to help students succeed and become global leaders, we have to become global leaders ourselves. And the administration has to support the teachers to do that. And administration themselves have to become global leaders. Now, with the remote learning, one more aspect of global leadership has come in, the parents. Like Dr. Mahenta also mentioned that she was talking to the parents also, which is really important. The parents also have to learn about these things so that they can help the students together with the teachers and the administration and help their child become global leaders. Like they always say, it takes a village. So it is not one person's job, it is everybody's job and responsibility to help our students go further in the world. Now, when I was researching for this topic, I read this blog in which the personal traits of a global leaders were given. I will give you a few seconds to go over them. Most of them are very familiar to us if you think. However, this is a very, very tall order to complete for any human being. So what I did is I simplified this whole thing and I divided them into two parts and made them something that is more convenient and easily accessible to us in an educational institution. So if you look on the left-hand side, the collaborative skills, the critical thinking, creativity, and communication skills, these four have been termed as the 4 C's of 21st century. The right-hand side is something I believe in: curiosity, patience, flexibility, logical thinking, and technological skills. These are really important to be side by side with the ones on the left. Because if you look at the collaborative skills, to be collaborative, patience and flexibility are the key. For critical thinking, logical thinking is really very important. For creativity, a person needs to be curious first. And communication skills is, as we all know, very, very important to convey what we are trying to say. However, the most important attribute is courage. I have been talking about courage since my TEDx talk way back in 2010. Because without courage, nothing can happen. The first thing we need, whether we are teachers or administrators, is what we need courage, and we need to do that for our students too. So this is something I tweeted earlier and I retweeted recently because I cannot stop talking about this. The three important traits are courage, resilience, and patience. Teaching and learning are at a point where the whole system needs to be shaken up. Educators, leaders have an opportunity to recreate the system like they've always wanted it to be. We have our chance and we should take it now. I will now start talking about the actual attributes and how they can be instilled. So first I will explain the attribute and then I will go and talk about how it can be instilled. And when I'm talking about these attributes and telling everybody how they can be instilled, some possible ways, I just want to put it in front that I always practice what I preach. And I will give a few examples of how I have done that in my classroom and in my own life. So let's look at the critical thinking. This is a blog actually by an author, the name is Michael Tomarsky. And he said that the key critical thinking skills are analysis, interpretation, inference, explanation, self-regulation, open-mindedness, and problem solving. Now let's look at this very, very carefully. In the world of today, where anyone is able to spread the news, as we all know, there is so much social media, WhatsApp, so it's so easy to spread false or real news that it has become really crucial that we read everything carefully and with a critical eye. The chain of events must be analyzed scientifically to interpret and inferred correctly. It is equally important that we are able to explain our thoughts coherently and correctly, keep an open mind to everyone's ideas and thoughts, improve our thought process to problem solve effectively, efficiently, and successfully. Now, when I say these things, doesn't it sound appropriate for all three levels in the education system, whether it's a student, a teacher, or an administrator? They are equally important for all three levels. How can we instill critical thinking? Encourage students to read, and I was really happy to hear Dr. Mahanta say the same thing. Reading is really important. Sometimes quantitative aptitude is left in the dark, but I think that's really important for everybody to have. Scientific literacy helps us think about what is happening in the world and how its effect would be. And when we are reading news, we can scientifically analyze it and see if it is true or not. Teaching logic and coding from a very young age helps students to become critical thinkers. Debating is very, very good because that is when students are thinking on the pros and cons of everything that's happening. Discussion of current events should become part of the day for every class. Case studies are very good for higher classes when the students have understood how to analyze situations. And then financial literacy. That is one thing that is hugely missing when students go to university and they have to live independently. So if that is instilled in students, they can become critical thinkers partly to realize how they should be spending their money or how they should be managing their expenses. Collaboration. This is one of my favorite ones, and I do collaborate a lot like I'm doing now. And why is it so important? Dr. Telsarat's talked about peace, and the other people have also talked about global peace. And that is where we are now. So let's try to understand. Collaboration helps us understand people from diverse cultures and backgrounds. And I teach in a school where I'm very fortunate to have students from 48 countries. It has helped me understand their culture and their backgrounds and come out of my own place to be empathetic towards where they come from and how they learn and how they react to situations. Because of this, people will become tolerant. So if you collaborate all over the world like we are doing now, we become more tolerant because now we will be able to understand what people are saying. Tolerance will bring harmony and harmony will bring peace. And isn't that our goal in life? Because peace is what will bring happiness. And that is why collaboration is one of my favorite attributes for global leaders. Now, collaboration actually has to be for students and teachers and administrators. And I will keep repeating this because I don't want us to forget that. Now, so teachers and students, that is our everyday job. Students of the same class, so group work, I think all of us do in our classes, which helps students to understand each other. Students of the same school maybe have a debating competition where students can participate, and I'm sure all schools do that. But it's very hard and difficult to have students from different countries collaborate. I have done that in my class. I had my students in Canada and I had one class in France. Because of technology, it was easy for them to collaborate and have live sessions. It was difficult to organize because of the time zone difference. However, we managed to do that with the support of the administration. So as a teacher, I took the initiative. The students jumped into the idea and were motivated to do that. And the admin supported me to make the classes such that the time zones did not affect our meeting and we could meet at a mutually convenient time. So you see how the role of all the three levels are coming in. And it was a very, very successful project. Collaboration between teachers, that's what we are doing here. And that's why I was so happy and encouraged to join this conference. So collaboration between teachers is really important because teachers of the same school, teachers of the same country, and teachers from different countries. So like I'm having a conference here, I have actually participated in development of ICT projects for science with 19 teachers from all the countries in Europe. I also attended Science on Stage Europe conference 3 times. I was one of the delegates from Canada, one of the 5 delegates from Canada. And I collaborate with teachers from a lot of places, and it has actually given me a lot of opportunities for myself and my students. Now let's talk about the courage and why we need it. This quote actually was very, very interesting for me. The first step towards becoming a leader is learning to lead yourself. Now, becoming a leader requires a lot of courage, as we all know. And learning to lead yourself requires a lot of confidence, which comes from the courage. So if we think about this quote, that is the first step to becoming courageous. So why do we need courage? We talked about having an open mind. Having an open mind is important, but at the same time, the prerequisite for progress and innovation have been courage. Whatever opinion anyone may have about the big tech companies, but the fact is that all of those companies were formed because someone had the courage to come out of their comfort zone, break everything, the Lego structure that we were talking about, and start from somewhere so that they could solve a problem in this world. I know that Facebook is in a lot of trouble, but however, if you think of Mark Zuckerberg, he was studying in Harvard. And while studying in Harvard, he got this idea of posting pictures of his classmates. When his idea was developing, he went to his parents and said that I want to drop out of Harvard because I want to do this. If you imagine that discussion in the family, I cannot imagine if I could have done or allowed my children to do what his parents allowed him to do. However, the parents had confidence in their child. The child had courage to do something new. And that is why we have something. Think about Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos left a lucrative job in Wall Street, had the courage to do that and start from scratch. So courage is really very important, because without that, we cannot have any innovation and creativity. And that is why I have written what is there in the slide below. I truly believe that these are the biggest reasons that make innovation, creativity, and change happen. I remember when my own oldest son was leaving his job in Facebook and wanted to start his own startup. And I told him, I said, why are you leaving such a good job and rocking your boat? And what he said made me a better teacher, actually. And he said to me, Mom, I don't want my progress to hinder in my progress. I will repeat that for you to help you to think. I don't want my progress to hinder in my progress. Now, how does it pertain to us? When we are very comfortable in our classes and in our teaching, we think sometimes that we don't need to change because everything is progressing so well. However, we cannot afford to do that in these challenging times. We cannot let our progress or progressions in our classes stop us from progressing in a different direction and help everybody become successful. And all of this requires a lot of courage and support. So why as teachers do we need courage? We have to dive into new environments, especially now. It is essential for creativity, like I just said. So students, but if we want our students to be courageous global leaders, we need to do the same. We need to role model. And on the administration side, they need to allow teachers to become courageous role models for their own students and let them make mistakes. Teachers can make mistakes, admin can make mistakes, and let the students make mistakes. If a person is not making mistakes, demonstrates that he or she has probably never done anything. So please allow people to make mistakes, support them, and let them grow from their mistakes. So how do I do that in my classes? In my classes, the students are encouraged to ask questions. The students can actually sometimes be very hesitant to ask questions because, especially if you're teaching older teenagers, they hesitate sometimes because they think that their classmates might laugh at them. So we have to keep encourage them to take those risks and keep reminding them that asking any question is not a big deal. And I always remind them, if Newton hadn't asked the question, why did the apple fall, we would not have had anything that we learned today. And just to remind everybody, I teach physics. So that is why I'm giving all the science and the physics examples here. So how do we instill courage? Remind students that it's okay to be wrong. And I keep reminding them every day. And I always tell them, if they made a mistake in answering a question, it is good because when I tell them the correct answer, they will never forget the correct answer. And that is what pleases them because now they feel happy and confident to answer questions. However, on the other side, I keep reminding the other students that there has to be an environment of mutual respect. So if somebody answers a question, whether correctly or incorrectly, no one in the class is allowed to make a comment which is not respectful or laugh or even smile in a way which affects the student who has answered. So we have a huge responsibility as teachers in our classes to help students become more confident and courageous. So the message to the administrators, the teachers need to have academic freedom. So when the curriculum is set by the government or a province, we know what we have to teach. However, how we teach depends on the teacher. And that academic freedom is what gives the courage to the teacher. However, we cannot forget that to do all of that, teachers need professional development. So while we are allotting resources for students and the classrooms, there has to be a lot of resource and time allotted to teachers for their professional development, for collaboration, for doing new ideas. In Google, some time back, I don't know if that happens now, but I had heard that people are given time off just to think so that they can create new things, and that is part of their professional development. The next one I want to talk about is curiosity. Curiosity is an inherent quality of human beings. And I'm sure all of us have observed small babies or children, toddlers, they are so curious about everything. The inquiry comes from there in our classes when students are curious. So we need to give them space and freedom to express themselves. Let them explore and discover. Let them ask questions. Let them look at different resources. With technology, we have so many resources that it is very easy for them to answer their curious questions, and we can help them find those resources. We all know this one very well, communication skills. It's very important, we know that. And how to develop communication skills? That is something that when we were talking about critical thinking, we were talking about debating and presentations, and we can help them develop those. However, again, I'll keep saying courage and confidence are needed. Now, to do all of the things I've been talking about, there are so many. As teachers, we need to be flexible and patient. Patient with the students' learning. So let's think about the assessments that we give our students. So I'm shifting gears now and talking about how we can help students become good learners and successful, and at the same time not feel intimidated by our classrooms. So and I've been tweeting about this a lot recently. What is the purpose of teaching? It is to help our students learn. But why do we give tests and exams? Because what is in it for students? I stay a lot away from tests because I always feel that it makes students feel judged by their teachers, their peers, and their parents. And it's a very heavy burden on those students. Because when we give tests and we get their marks, they just build our database. Now, I don't think a lot of people will agree with me on this, but I want to tell you one of the examples from my side, which I have done. Like in my introduction, Dr. Tyagi said that I take my students to synchrotron to work with scientists. I will give you one example of that. These students are in my club, which is called the Integrated Science Club. They don't have to spend more than an hour's work in a week. However, they spend hours talking to the scientist. We go to the synchrotron facility, and one time they had already worked for 8 hours on their experiment, and then they wanted to work for 4 more hours. And the executive director of the facility asked me, why are they working for 4 more hours? Will you give them better marks? I said, no, there are no marks allotted. He said, will they get a credit? I said, no, it is only a club. Then he asked me, then why are they doing this? I said, I have no idea why they're doing this. The point that I'm trying to make here is the students don't study for marks. It's we who tell them that they have to study for marks by giving them tests and assessing them and judging them on the basis. If we let them go free, be curious, ask questions, develop the inquiry skills, and get courageous and confident to work with scientists who are way ahead of them, they will be motivated to work. Sometimes we think unless we give them tests, they will not study. But this example tells you that they worked a lot more than any student will work on a course material. So flexibility and patience, and I'll just share this tweet with you. We create assessments to assess learning. However, do we assess our own assessments? Have we ever thought about how our assessments are actually assessing students? How do we know what we do is what we should do? And should we build tools to help students assess their own learning without being judgmental? That judgmental part is very, very important and intimidating for students. Now, a lot of people must have talked about technology, but I just wanted to mention it here and give a message to the teachers about technology. This is my favorite quote that I wrote some time back. Using technology is not a 21st century skill. And when I say technology, I mean computer technology. It must be used to develop these skills. Sometimes when we see technology, we just want to use it. Please stay away from doing that. We have to think about the pedagogy first and see which technology is useful for that pedagogy and then use it. Again, one of my tweets here, before we jump into educational technology tools, we need always to keep the pedagogy in the front end. Please remember, it is not which and how many tools you use, but how you use the ones you have. Try to find innovative ways to use the EduTech tools that you already have. Don't try to hunt for others and don't be in a race to copy or under peer pressure to use new tools every day. Please, please don't do that. Using too many diverse tools does not improve pedagogy. And that is a very, very important message. And all of these things that I'm saying are helping us become global leaders because now we are confident in what we are using. So when we actually project that to our students, it helps them become confident. Time to think. I've already talked about that. It's a very, very important aspect of our global leadership. We need time to think. And then please, please be kind to yourself. It is very important that we are all kind to ourselves. So who are we then? We've talked a lot about the attributes. We've talked about what we should be doing in our classes or what we need to do and what are our choices. However, let's come back to the basic things that we do. Who are we as teachers? Are we curriculum deliverers? Are we knowledge givers or are we test takers? Maybe not. In this world, maybe not. Because the knowledge is accessible to students from all over the world. We don't actually need to give them knowledge anymore. Our role is, what is our role then? Our role is to be a bridge between their acquired knowledge and what the truth is. So let them learn and come to our classes and discuss it so that we can tell them if they have learned correctly or not. That will help their critical thinking. And remember, critical thinking is one of the global leadership attributes. So what is the role of the teachers now? We have become facilitators of learning. So I stay away from calling myself teacher, although I've been saying this word too many times because it's more familiar. However, I want to be a facilitator of my students' learning and not be a knowledge giver anymore. I want to give them, when my students ask me how they can develop a project to go for trips or work with scientists, I said it has to be your idea, it has to be a project. I will be a facilitator to organize scientists. I will be a facilitator to organize their trip. I will be a facilitator of their learning. I will not tell them or give them knowledge. That is something they will acquire or inquire themselves. So now we must be thinking, what about our traditional methods then? The knowledge, the thinking inquiry, the communication, the analysis. We call them KTCA here in Canada. So one thing we have to be very, very clear about, and that is for the administrators and parents, we need a classroom. Whether it is physical or online, that does not matter, but we do need a classroom. And we need to have a link between the facilitator and the learner. Learning needs a facilitator, which whom we've been calling a teacher up till now. Without a teacher/facilitator, learning cannot happen. So the classroom cannot go away no matter how much the world changes. We need mentors, we need facilitators, we need teachers, and we need a space where people can work together and collaborate to learn. So this is something I discovered a few years back. I was thinking about what is happening in the world when I gave my TEDx talk. And I said, the teachers are learning, the students are learning, the administrators are learning. So now the school no longer has teachers and students. Our schools have only learners. And to become, it is really important that all of us are learners and we'll keep learning all the time so that we can become aware global leaders. But one last message I want to give students for the teachers. We all actually divide our classrooms into 4 different spaces. We say, oh, intelligent, hardworking, intelligent, not so hardworking, hardworking, not so intelligent, and then we keep one group on the side. However, and this is something we've heard all the time. So I was thinking about this recently. I said, why do we call some people intelligent and others not so intelligent? As a teacher, I shouldn't be doing that. And this is a learning for me, actually, too. Because I truly believe that everyone has a superpower which needs to be discovered. And that is where our role as teachers comes in. So how do we do that? We help them find that we help our students find that superpower, find their niche, and give them an opportunity to excel. Because what can happen is sometimes my students tell me, Dr. Ahuja, I'm not very good at physics. The first thing I always tell them is please don't say that because you still don't know what physics is. So you cannot just know that if you're good or not. That's the first part. Secondly, if you discover that you don't have much interest and you're not good at it for whatever reason, you must be having some other attribute or strength in your personality. Try to discover that. And then I remind the whole class that this world needs all kinds of people to become a world. If everybody became Einstein, this world wouldn't exist. We need artists, we need scientists, we need leaders, we need teachers, we need administrators, we need managers, we need everybody. sports people, like there are so many, we can keep counting, it will not end. And the only thing we need to do as facilitators of learning, as a school, as an administrator, as a parent, is to help the children find their niche. And this is where our leadership comes in, how we help them discover themselves. But please be fair to every student, because for global peace, the fairness is a very important aspect. The equity is very important aspect. And these two things are sometimes missing in the world, which creates all the problems, and we are not able to sustain peace. So please be fair and please be equitable. Please don't judge our peers, students, and teachers. Please don't. And be very, very kind to everybody. Thank you for listening. And I'll wait for some questions now.
Yeah. Thank you very much.